Hello, MPA families and students. Hey, it's Mr. Brian. Hey, it's time that we reconnect. Do you believe our last parent town hall was back in August? And here we are getting close to the middle of November. Well, with the holidays approaching, some changes in the way we handle the pandemic, thought it's a good time to have another town hall. So thank you for joining us tonight. I do want to thank the crew I got behind the scenes here helping us out. You can ask questions through the chat feature on YouTube, and Miss Heather will be collecting those, and we'll kind of address those as we go. And we'll also have this recording available on our website tomorrow. I think we've handled this with a large degree of grace and courtesy so far. Ask questions through the and here is, and Miss Heather will be collecting those. We're getting some feedback there, Brandon. So just FYI. And we'll also have this recording. We usually start our meetings with some kind of greeting or kind of quote here at MPA, but here's one that came in from a parent, and it says, I won't say the name. Every day the kids get school. Physically present or remote is a gift, and we cherish it so. Well, I tell you what, I do a little celebration dance every day that we're open, just because no one guessed we would be in this place doing this. Think of November last year. We didn't even really know what a pandemic was. We heard a few things coming in the media, but here we are a year later, after we first started hearing about this. And since March, we have re-envisioned education, okay? And we're just getting better. We haven't fixed everything, and it's always gonna be a work in progress. That's why we're meeting tonight. I wanna introduce Brittany. She's gonna talk a little bit about some things from the board's perspective, and then we'll take it away. So go ahead, Brittany.
Thanks, Mr. Brian. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thanks for joining. I share Brian's comments. Just a quick update from the board. We wanted to let everybody know that our main priority is listening to Mr. Brian and the staff, hearing what they need so that we can support the kids and them. Our main priority is going to be doing everything we can to keep everybody safe, healthy, and in-person learning as long as we can. And so we have been allowing Brian and everybody on the staff to do what they do best. And they know that we're here to support them, and they just have to reach out and ask. At the same time, we're beginning our budget season, and we're going to start working on what that's going to look like. And that will drive how we can responsibly start moving forward on some of our strategic themes. So for now, that's what we're here for. Our most important priority is the kids and keeping them safe and making sure that everyone at MPA and our whole family is safe and healthy and able to do what they do best. So that's what we have from the board. Back to you, Brian.
Hi, thanks, Brittany. All right.
Brian, I'm going to interrupt for a moment. This is Heather. I believe your second computer is causing a tremendous amount of feedback.
Okay.
Would you be able to mute your second computer, please?
Back to you, Brian.
Hey, thanks, Brittany. It's already muted, so I tell you what, let me do
I'm not
this.
sure. I'm going to interrupt for a moment. This is Heather. I believe your second computer is causing a tremendous amount of feedback.
Okay. We're just getting, someone's streaming it and we're picking it up on a mic.
Oh, got it.
Okay, thanks, Brittany. It's already muted, so I tell you what.
Okay.
Brandon, do you have any suggestions? Okay, there we go. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about where we've been. When we first started this journey, our protocols that we set up, we thought were adequate for the time, and they've turned out to be a pretty good process. I mean, we're not happy that we wear masks all day, especially us teachers and us staff. We're not thrilled with all the protocols and the cohorting and all these things, but we are very happy that we've made it to November 9th, and we've only had to quarantine one class, and we've only had one positive test come back that affected our school anyway. We've had families, you know, have different positive traces, and Miss Christine, who's our health clerk, has done an unbelievable job of making this happen. And so with all the contact tracing, everything else, we're making it happen. The problem is the world's getting pretty busy out there, as you can tell from the media. I'll share some data with you, and we just have to be ready. A lot of this is out of our control, and I'll show you what's in our control tonight. One thing that has changed is schools have been upgraded to what's called critical business. Before, schools were just sent home. We were not even part of the essential workers piece, but that has changed. So let's take a look here. I'll show you what critical business means here in a minute. Right now, this is what the state uses as far as this dial on where we're at. It was announced at 5 p.m. today. We are now at Safer at Home level 3, which they call level orange. So we just moved out of the middle level, yellow, and that is getting us very close to this stay at home piece. So you can see my red arrow here on this one. Yes, we're in this zone now where we look at 3 metrics. We look at new cases. So how many new cases are coming out each week, each day, I guess, and over a 2-week period. Then we look at positivity percentage. So if you can kind of take a look there, back when we started back in August, we were less than 5%. Okay, we hovered around 4 something and some change. So we were at this kind of this blue level. Well, then as the months have trickled on and the weather's starting to change, then it was about 2 weeks ago, we were in about 7% positivity. Last week we were in 9%. This week we're in 11 and 12. Okay, so it's just moving higher and higher as each week goes along. And then obviously you probably hear in the media a lot about just the number of hospitalizations, how many beds are available, things like that. So let's kind of take a look at where we are. This is some old data here, but what this means is we look at these all 3, and it doesn't have to mean each one has to be in the red zone for schools to close, okay? It just has to be in a one category where the governor or the State Board of Health or the Jeffco County Health make the call, not us, okay? So let me kind of explain where we're at right now. We are incident rate, we're pretty high in the state right now. They look at how many cases are popping up for every 100,000, okay? Positivity rate just today in the state of Colorado is over 12%. If you average that out over 7 days, it's 11%. And hospitalization now is up to 82% of ICU beds utilized. So let's go back to the chart here. So like I said, we actually have data that says on the number of new cases, we should be at the stay-at-home level, but they're waiting a few weeks for that to either go down, stabilize, or continue going up. So we kind of get in these wait time periods, these 14 days, these 2 weeks. Like I said, our positivity rate, it's not greater than 15%, but it is a bit higher than 10%. So that's why we're in that zone. And hospitalization, that's a hard data point for us to follow because I think that metric kind of changes around. But the bottom line news is, at least in the state, the hospitals are starting to fill up. But in Jeffco, we have a little bit of different data. Our positivity rate the last 7 days is not as high as the state, and our incident rate is not as high as the state. So I think this is in our favor. We're in a school district that likes to look at the numbers. Other districts have made decisions based on other criteria, but I have to say, Jeffco is really more about, okay, can we still operate? Are schools being safe? Are students being safe? Staff being safe? What's our data telling us? That's where we're at. Since school has started, we've had about 430 positive cases in schools, which means students and staff. So when you look at 12,000 just in Jeffco County since the start of March, our percentage rate for schools adding to the overall positivity rate is pretty small, okay? So which means is schools are not really adding a ton of positivity rate. Okay, let me say that again. Schools are not adding to the increasing positivity rate. It's the things that are going on outside of schools. So through the contact tracing, they're finding things such as, like we just had Halloween. Last week we had a bump in positivity rate, not only in the county, but also in schools. Birthday parties, family get-togethers, things like that. So most of the contact tracing has been showing the problem being external to schools. Sports is probably one of the biggest things in schools that's leading to that 430. Teams are big, and also at the high school age group, that group has higher positivity rates than, say, our 3 and 4 year olds in preschool, which have a very low positivity rate. But the data's mixed. There's some surprises in there. We thought, oh, okay, 3 and 4 year olds don't have a lot of positivity rates. What about kinder? Actually, kinder is quite high when you compare 3 and 4 year olds, but not as high as, say, a high schooler by any means. So the data's there, but really schools overall have done a pretty good job. So that's why that kind of goes back to that critical business, okay? Let me see, here's my slide on this. Since this health order changed the status of schools, what this means is, I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to fine tune what they want to shut down. And so let me give you an example. If they're showing a lot of problems in restaurants, bars, things like that, it would make sense to close those down and keep the critical business of schools open. So I think what's happening here in public policy is they're going to try to leave schools as open as long as we can, because we know it's a big part of the workforce. We know it's also a big part of child well-being. And schools really do drive the economy. I think most people didn't understand that. I knew that as an administrator, that every dollar you spend in education, 20 years later, you have almost like a 20% return on education costs. That's because, you know, people get trained and it drives the economy. So it's the one tax area that really puts money back into the economy in the future, lots of it. So I think that's kind of been realized here. So that works in our favor. We at MPA want to keep schools open. Obviously, we're not going to do it at a dangerous level. Like I said, we've had 1 positivity rate since school opened. Now, that could change tomorrow, because believe me, Christine's on the phone all day working with families. And I tell you what, families, you've done a tremendous job of keeping kids home and double checking. That's what's really worked. The staff here has done a really good job. It's tough. We have to cover their position. But if they let us know, man, I'm not feeling good, they stay home. So I think all of us have done our part. And that's why we're where we're at today. And we want to keep going. But like I said, a lot of this is out of our control. Here's a couple of things that could affect you in the future. Tonight is about letting you know what's coming down the road. We've already had 1 class that had to be quarantined, and they just came back today. So sweet. But also what happened there is one of our specials teachers had to go get quarantined as well. So because they work with classes for a length of time that they consider close contact. Never had any problems, that staff member, but the point is it's through the whole flow charts and the contact tracing that we have to find out who can work here in the building and who has to get sent home as a staff. So quarantine classes can happen at any time. The last one that happened, we didn't find out, really didn't make a decision till about 5:36 at night. And the students weren't allowed to come back the next day, which means we had to have staff go get tested the next morning. And then we had to start up a remote class for the next, I don't know, it was about a week and a half at that point. And they had to be remote. So it takes a little bit of time to flip the switch because of testing for staff. And it's kind of a soft start that day. And then, hey, they did great and they had to come back today. What also could happen, and we just avoided this, is what's considered an outbreak. An outbreak means you have 2 or more positive COVID tests in a building within a 14-day window. Our 14-day window ended last night. So Christine and I were holding our breath all weekend, because what that would have meant is if we would have gotten another positive test over the weekend, we would have to close the school today for cleaning. So that's what happens. You probably have heard that, or you might even have one of your child in a high school, and you probably know this well. When you have 2 or more positive cases, you got to shut the school down for 24 to 48 hours, deep clean the school, and then everyone comes back. So everything just gets turned on a dime, just turned really quick. And then the other thing too is what's looming is, are we going to move to the stay-at-home level? And that means remote learning for K-12. Now, here's the hitch. We might be able to keep our preschool open, okay? Back in the spring, we closed preschool down. We didn't know enough about this virus. We didn't know enough about protocols back in March and April, May to make good decisions. But now we know how to run. We know how to run and be safe. And since our preschool is technically a private preschool, we're not a Jeffco preschool, we have our own preschool license, we can offer, if we feel it's safe, preschool for 3 and 4-year-olds. The question being, some people have been asking, well, can we keep kinders? I think it all depends on the health order. Whatever health order that we get, we'll make that decision at the time with our own board. But that is a possibility. Some other possibilities of things that would remain open would be students who need services for special education, ESL. We would still do our food service where we have families pick up lunches and stuff that we have already right now, where we have food that families pick up. So that would keep going. So there would be some basic services still operating in the school versus back in the spring, it was a full, everyone worked from home. This building sat empty for 3 months. And I came back in June. In our front office, we've all worked together since June. And we just know how to work together and be safe to keep the building open. That's what's coming. So let me review real quick. Could be a quarantine class where we have to shut down and send kids home. It could be an outbreak where we're closed for 24 to 48 hours, or it's a possible K-12, send everybody home with some limited services still being open at MPA, okay? So what is new? Since we moved to this level orange today, I have Christine here. We have to do just a little bit more in our paperwork. So Miss Christine, go ahead. I'm gonna click open this form here while you're talking.
Okay, so I am Christine Hain, and I am the health aide at Montessori Peaks. I've been the health aide for going on 8 years. The thing that's important for you to know is that I am not a registered nurse. A lot of times they just say the nurse. That's not me. that is Kelly Brown. She is our nurse consultant from Children's Hospital, and I work under her license. So she delegates me to do the things that I do. We are extremely lucky that we have Kelly. The Jeffco nurses are, great, but they are just overwhelmed with the sheer numbers of, in the Jeffco schools. So we get, I am in contact with Kelly. I mean, today it was probably 7 times. I'm in contact with her and she's there to answer questions at any time. So we get answers in minutes where it could literally be days at a neighborhood school. As Mr. Bryan said, that there is going to be, because we're in this level orange now, there is going to be some stricter things that we have to do as far as documentation. This letter that's up is the return to school note for providers. So when you go and get your COVID test, if you need to get a COVID test, they have to show that it is negative, and the date it was performed, all that stuff that you see. And another big thing is it cannot be a rapid test. It must be the PCR test. We cannot accept a rapid test. CDPHE does not accept that for us. So if you are going to the doctor to get your test, ask for the PCR. It may be longer that your quarantine is going to be, but we cannot do a rapid test. So if they say we're doing a rapid, say can't do it. Need this PCR. The other thing that we need is if they say, no, you don't need a test, your child doesn't need a test, we need to know why they don't need a test. And it's got to be pretty specific. The healthcare providers are getting used to what is being asked of them. So they're getting better at it, just like if any of you have the children that have allergy symptoms and we've asked for those letters, the letters that we're getting now are better and better. They have all of the information they need because they do have templates for the doctors to look at. But basically, if they give you a letter that says it's not COVID, the cough isn't COVID, it's a viral illness, that's not going to be good enough. It's got to be why is it not COVID? What tests did you do, or what did you see, and what do you think it is specifically? As Mr. Ryan said, you are all doing an amazing job with the health screeners, and we need to keep those going just like we are. I look at every health screener from every child every day. And if there is a 99 or above temperature on there, we call them down around 9:30 in the morning to recheck, because a lot of times parents' thermometers just run a little high. And we just have to make sure it's going down, or it's not at that 100.4 where you have to go home. So keep up the good work on those. Keep up the great work you're doing with calling in and telling us what's going on. The more information we have, the better. If you don't give very much information, I'm going to be contacting you. I have to know what symptoms your child's having. If they are the major symptoms, like a cough, fever, then we're going to ask you to see your doctor within 24 hours if it's not improving. If it's a more minor symptom, like maybe a sore throat, a headache, or a stuffy nose, then we'll say 48 hours, and then we'd like you to talk to your doctor. As you know, they cannot be at school with any of those symptoms. So, keeping them home, everybody has been doing such a great job with that. And then also just, letting us know communication is just a key to staying open. All of that's confidential. As you saw, when we did have to quarantine a class, it's not specific to the people. It's on a need to know basis, basically. The class that was quarantined, it gets a little bit more information. Obviously, your class is quarantined. But when it goes out to the community, then it is just very, very generic, as you know, there's a class. So don't worry about confidentiality. Just like anything else, we're not going to give names. We're not going to do any of that. But, you know, telling us here in the office all that you can is really going to be key for us to get you the right information and to get you to, you know, do what you need to do. I think that's pretty much all I have. Again, if your student ever exhibits any of these symptoms at school, you're going to be called. If the teacher says, you know, they're blowing their nose 20 times, you're going to be called. And again, we have had amazing, amazing cooperation with this. All of the parents that we contact, they come with no problem. And that's exactly what we need in order to stay open. So I really, really thank you for that. And that's about all I have.
Thanks, Christine. So again, we have really good protocols here. We got really good family partnerships. We just have to remind that we do need the PCR test, not a rapid test. So that helps. And then we have to have more documented proof now. Before it was just like, oh no, yeah, it was negative. Yeah, well, in this next level, it's just more documentation. So that's the big change. The schools, we're just going to keep doing what we do. I've kind of gone over this. Like I said, I hope us being deemed a critical business allows some flexibility in decisions from the people above, so to speak, on who gets to stay open, things like that. Again, as long as we're being safe, our positivity rate is very low. And I think the big thing is, do we have enough staff to run things? A lot of schools close because there's just not enough staff to cover classrooms. There's not enough guest teachers, substitute teachers. That's our worry. I think if we just get stuck in a position where we don't have enough staff to run a full school, this is where I have to ask our MPA board for some quick decision making and see if we just want to close for a short time or just see where we're at. But so far we're doing okay, and we're only 2 weeks before Thanksgiving break here. So in the next 2 weeks, here's some things that we need to do. Tomorrow we're going to be sending out a Chromebook or a tech request. It's time to prepare that. We need to know which families need technology. Okay, so look for that email, fill that out for Miss Heather, and that'll help. And then also in that same email, we just want to survey how many primary families, when I say primary, 3rd and 4th, or 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, how many would stay if we could keep our preschool open, okay, during a shutdown. So we just need to know that so we can plan ahead for staffing. And really the big thing is be ready to pivot. If we switch fast, okay? And if you notice this note on the left here, there's a little backpack behind there. Have your kiddos bring a backpack every day all the way up to Thanksgiving. Most do here. I do car line in the morning. I see most kids have backpacks. But if a class gets pushed into quarantine, or we have an outbreak in the school where we have to close for 24 hours to clean, or we get sent home because of the numbers, the positivity rates increase, we're going to be sending stuff home that day. When I say stuff, if they need a Chromebook, here comes the Chromebook and the plug, the cord. Here comes some Montessori materials or books or papers. So we're going to flip it or pivot very quick moving forward. Snow days, I didn't even put that on here. Oh, I guess it's on the note there. Jeffco went to this model of, hey, we have one free snow day, all the rest are, we're going to flip them to remote days. That gets a little tricky for us. If there's a snow day next week, we're going to try to get you the technology passed out a day ahead. Okay, so we're going to look at the weather, try to be predictors of weather, I guess. And we'll try to get Chromebooks and materials sent home the day before if we suspect a snow day. So there's a lot to think about that a year ago, we never even thought about this stuff. But that's just the world we live in. We're gonna live in a period of where we just have to have clear communication. That's why we're doing tonight. Speaking of communications, here we go. We can't do parent tours in person anymore, so we're going to start a virtual parent tours for starting on the 18th next week. See our website for details. So if you know families are wanting to join us for next year, things like that, that's how we're going to do it. Guess what? Enrollment for next year opens up on December 8th. Okay, so just want to make sure you're aware of that. We're also going to have some parent meetings coming up, for lack of better words. Why stay with us? We want to be as transparent as a school as we can and explain to families what we're good at, things that we're working on, and things that we've had to change since the pandemic. We've had to make Montessori. We've had to address it in the home at a level we never expected. Okay. If you're a family that's remote and you want to come back to in person, our next window of time is January 6th. The October 19th, we had about 10% of our student population come back to in person. So that what that did is that put us about 88% in person, about 12% in remote, somewhere in there. But we still have families that need to be remote for the rest of the year, and we're here to provide that. Some families, it depends on their need. Also want you to know we got Thanksgiving week coming up, and we have winter break coming up. Now, as you know, all families get together over these holidays, and I'm not sure where this is going to lead us. So that's why we need to make sure we have technology passed out to families before Thanksgiving break. We just need to have stuff ready because we're at the mercy of the public, friends. So if rates really go up, that's not because of schools really, or this school, it's just what the community and Colorado at large is telling us we need to do, and we have to be ready. So here's the other thing. How do we help each other in this? We're really just trying to keep our communication short and to the point. Not a long narrative. I know our newsletter's a little long, but we're just trying to condense things down. If there's something you really need to know as a parent, it's going to be in a solo email or a voicemail. One thing. So we're going to wind up kind of make sure we're communicating in smaller chunks so that you don't miss a vital piece of information. These are challenging times, and if you're feeling yourself starting to get a little frustrated with things, ask for help or call before you get to that point. That's a big help, because when you're in a frustrated mode, it takes us a long time to kind of figure out how to help. So cut it off. Just, I think one advice I want to give parents is, I think some people try to say something nice and then tell us a real problem. And when you write a 4-paragraph email, teachers don't have a lot of time to read that stuff. I know I struggle with it. I read fast, but sometimes I miss pieces. Just say it. That's my advice. Keep all our communications to the point. If you're having a hard time, something's not right, just say it. Boom. Saves us time. If you feel like you want to give some love, some gratitude, do that differently. Do a handwritten is best, because really all of us are pretty sick of reading emails. We all go home at night, clean up emails, and then we have emails all day, and I'm sure your world is emails. So change it up. Use email that is quick and concise, and anything that you can send handwritten as gratitude and appreciation, that would be wonderful. Anything I left out, let me know. Usually after these town halls, there's questions, things like that didn't get caught by our question and answer. And if you're not happy with some of this, I've had some parents voice their concerns at levels above me. I think it's fantastic. So that's what our country is about, is making our voice heard. So speaking of our voice heard, Miss Heather, what do you got for questions tonight?
Well, I think most of the questions have been answered. I'm looking. We've had some question about kindergartners and preschoolers, whether or not they should bring backpacks. Some of them have heard different things. I think what I'm understanding from Heidi, thank you, Sherry, thank you. I think you just need to check with your teacher if you're in preschool or kindergarten about bringing a backpack. But everyone else should go ahead and start bringing one, just so that if we do need to send home a Chromebook, or we need to send home Montessori materials or sheets from the teachers, and we need to do that on very short notice, you have something to put them in. So that's the whole idea behind bringing the backpacks.
Right.
I think that's
yeah, we only have 9 days left between now and Thanksgiving, and tomorrow Heather and I will send out that Chromebook request, and that way, you know, you can answer those specific questions to families direct there, Heather. So
right. Well, and just so everybody knows, I think we are planning, if your child needs a Chromebook, if we were to go remote, we will be sending home Chromebooks with those students between now and Thanksgiving break, so that you have those at Thanksgiving break in case something should change during Thanksgiving break.
yes.
So that's part of the reason behind some of this. We want to know who needs devices if we would go remote, and then we will get you those devices just before we go on break, to make sure that you have them in case something would change.
Right.
Okay.
One thing I forgot to share is the first stimulus or COVID package sent out by the federal government, that first round. There's a piece in there called the coronavirus relief funds that schools got. And we all got a small chunk of it, and we decided to put our stuff into Chromebooks. Well, all that's been back ordered since July. Otherwise, we would have kept Chromebooks at home. But we need Chromebooks in the school, and we also have quite a few of them checked out to families who are in remote. So it's this, Heather's got this balance where she has to have enough technology in the building, but we also have to have enough technology at home. And we're getting there. We're just waiting for Chromebooks to come in December. So.
Yeah, but if anybody has any Chromebook questions, please feel free to email me or give me a call in the library, whatever works best for you.
You bet. Anything else there, Heather? Wow, I feel I'm getting off easy tonight.
I know. We have had one question. I think I've answered it, but one question about if the school goes all remote, what happens with the remote kids that are remote only? They're with remote only teachers. Do they stay with their remote teachers, or do they go back to their original homeroom teachers? And my response to that is, because we have no idea how long remote would go, we would probably continue staying with the instructors that the students are currently working with. Yeah,
there'll be some decisions in the teams and the levels, because we've tried to maintain students some contact to their classrooms, at least from first grade through sixth, because they've had these classes. And so there's a little bit of crossover already. And I think teachers would figure that out pretty quick. But I think that's the right answer, Heather, is we don't know, are we in remote for 2 weeks, or are we in remote for 2 months? It depends. So it's a good question. And I think having more than one teacher is a great thing. And I think that's probably what will happen, is your homeroom teacher will be doing some connections, but your remote teacher will keep handling what they already do best right now. So yeah, so well said. Anything else before we wrap it up tonight? All right, well, like I said, parents, you've been phenomenal. This is why we're still open, and this is why we've had a fairly healthy run. Kids get sick, but so far COVID is really, we have not had a huge problem, but We're very strict here. It's worked for us. The staff has been tremendous. Usually I've seen where you put protocols in place and they wear out very quickly. Very dedicated here. We're always cleaning the school. Got to thank our staff for that. We're just rocking it. Are we tired? Yes. This is a lot of work, and this is where we're in a month. The seasons change and the time change. It's dark, but there's a lot of celebration too. So keep that in mind. We just always need to understand that this is a blessing, that school is open and we can get children educated in a way that 10 years ago we never thought we could do, 50 years ago would have never happened. But we're educating. We're educating from afar and in person. Who would have thought that a year ago? And so I'm just very proud of all the things that we've done. If you got questions, we're here. We're just fine tuning all the time. Like I said, let's keep our communication short and to the point, and keep our celebrations short and to the point. That'll help us all because we're all on overload of information right now. So thank you for joining tonight. Thank you, the people behind the scenes. Any one of you got any last comments before we sign off? All right. I will do some stories